Okay. All right. Okay, guys, what's going on? Hi, hello, DramaticDegen, as you guys know. We're doing something a little bit different than normal. Of course, you guys all know me as a poker player and a poker streamer on twitch.tv/DramaticDegen. I'll leave a link down below for all of that. But I'm also a big MMA enthusiast, big fight fan. I bet on almost every single fight card of the year, whether it's a whether it's a pay-per-view or a fight night. I'm just a really big fan. And my buddy here, as you see, Alex, he's also a professional poker player, and he's a big MMA fan as well. So we figured we'd do something a little bit different and see how things work out and share with you guys our fight picks and who we're going to bet on, who we're not going to bet on, etc. So yeah, Alex, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Yeah, what's up, guys? I'm a professional poker player, like Travis said. I've known Travis for a while. I play mid to high stakes poker, backed by some of the high stakes players from Jason Kuhn to Abe Styles to Dylan Divorce. And yeah, I mean, I love MMA, and I've been betting on tons and tons of cards. And I figured we'll just go through every fight that seems important and give us our picks, couple outcomes, and we'll see who's right, we'll see who's wrong, and maybe you guys can make some money out of it, and we'll have some fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys really enjoy this, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe. Drop a comment down below if this is something you guys want to see more of. We know this is not poker content, and I know I'm probably not going to get as much views, but this is just a lot of fun and a little bit of a change of pace for all of us. And, you know, so if you guys like it, make sure you let me know. Excuse me. So I bet on pretty much every fight on the card. I'm a little bit of a degen that way, and we're not going to cover every fight. So if you guys are interested in that, come check out my Twitch stream. I share all my picks in my Twitch stream, or you can join my Discord in the sports section of my Discord. I'll also share all of my picks there. We're just going to go through some of the important ones. So we figured we'll start with these two in the early prelims: Cruz versus Pedro Munoz, and then Josh Emmett versus Dan Ige, and then we'll cover the main card and go from there. So I guess we'll start with Pedro Munoz and Dominick Cruz. Of course, Dominick Cruz is the former bantamweight champion. He's one of the bantamweight goats in my mind, and he's still doing the damn thing. He's not as active, of course, because of just a career filled with injuries, but he's still got it. He's still got it, and he's fighting a guy in Pedro Munoz who, you know, it's kind of crazy, honestly, that he's number 8 because he's such a monster. But that's just kind of a reflection of the bantamweight division.
That whole division is just disgusting. So.
Yeah, absolutely disgusting. What do you think? I'll get your opinion first.
For me, man, this is a hard one to pick. I think it can go a couple of ways. I can see the first round just Pedro having trouble with Dominic and his movement. You know, Dominic's been known with that footwork. He's real fast, slick. He kind of throws people off all the time with that movement and that footwork. And
yeah.
3 rounds can go by and Pedro can just be sitting there watching. However, I think with Dominic, you know, being late in his career now and like aging, that's what makes me like not be entirely sure if he's gonna hold up in like round 3, if he's gonna have that same stamina and footwork. So it's for me, it's a very close pick for me. I'm gonna go with Pedro personally. I think he's the newer fighter, he's the fresher fighter. They are friends. Pedro does know how Dominic works. They are good friends. So for me, I'm going to go with Pedro. However, again, for me, it's a very close pick. And I think I could see this fight going the distance, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't see this being a round 1 knockout. If it is a stoppage, I could see it being in round 3 where Dominic is kind of, his footwork isn't the same as it is in round 1. I could see this just being a decision for either way. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Pedro, though, for this one.
Yeah, to some degree, I think this is almost like just pick whoever's the underdog, you know, because
I think at one point they were both minus 118. It was kind of a pick 'em.
Yeah, and that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And yeah, you're right. It was a pick 'em. You know, Munoz obviously has the threat of his power, right? He's just got so much power, especially for the bantamweight division, which is saying something because there's actually quite a lot of power in that division.
I mean, we saw that fight with Cody Garbrandt, right? So
yeah, insane, absolutely insane. And then, you know, who was his last fight? I'm trying to remember. Even that fight was like still pretty damn good.
That was Frankie Edgar, I think.
This is Jose Aldo.
Oh, Jose Aldo.
Okay. And that went to decision, right?
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy that Jose Aldo didn't get knocked out, but that's a testament to his chin. I mean, he's been knocked out so few times. My main thing is like Pedro is obviously significantly like more flat-footed than Dominic Cruz. So
For
like
sure.
if Pedro isn't able to basically like cut off Dominic while he's moving to the outside and prevent Dominic from working those really weird angles, he'll like sidestep and then fire like a weird left hook. It's almost like a Lomachenko style striking, you know?
Yeah.
Then Pedro Munoz is gonna get outworked. He's not gonna get knocked out. He's not gonna end up having like a tough time as far as damage goes, but he's gonna get like outdanced basically, you know? And
yeah, and if he does win, I think it might be by points. I think even like he can hurt Dominic, but he's been knocked out once by Cejudo.
well, I was gonna say if Pedro Munoz wins, it's gonna be by knockout, I think, because what's gonna happen is he's gonna find that particular opening where Dominic Cruz does work that weird angle and Pedro just fires that counter left or that counter right down, not down the middle. He's gonna have to find some weird like looping left hook or looping right hook while Dominic Cruz is trying to move to the outside. So that's gonna be the really really big thing is Pedro cutting him off on the sidestep, you know?
Yeah, it's weird. I don't see him hurting. Like, I know he can hurt. I know he has the power, but I just don't think he's gonna catch Dom something like Dom clean, unless it's late.
Well, then there's the issue then, right? Is because Dominic Cruz will definitely have more volume than Pedro Munoz. So what does Munoz end up doing to win by points then?
I mean, who knows? That's why this fight is just, for me, it's such a
tough.
close fight. I have a hard time seeing this fight.
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine how this fight will play out. Yes, I could see Pedro knocking him out. I could see Dominic winning by points, but I could also really see it being a close fight where Pedro does do damage. He does do some damage, but it's not enough, or maybe the judges have it scored in a different way. So it's a hard one. Like I said, I lean a little bit towards Pedro, but
yeah, I lean a little bit towards Dominic Cruz, but that might be a bias too because I am a Cruz fan. But
and I think most likely distance. In my opinion.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the chances of it going the distance are pretty good, especially because like I think Munoz has gone the distance quite a bit recently. His last two fights were by distance. You know, Dominic Cruz goes by the distance quite a bit. So yeah, I see that as well. I'm gonna go with Cruz. I put some money on Cruz, and I wouldn't blame anybody to put some money on this fight going the distance as well.
I got Pedro. So. The only money I put on as an over 2.5 rounds. That's all I have on this.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, this is a really good fight.
Barn burner.
This is a really good one. This feels almost like a pick'em as well, to be quite honest with you. Dan Ige coming off a loss, right? Is that right?
He knocked out Gavin Tucker fast.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Then he lost. Oh, his last fight was a loss to Korean Zombie.
Yeah.
Remember that fight went to decision.
Right.
But that was a great fight. I mean, he didn't really win too many rounds there, but he put up a fantastic performance. That guy's just better. Korean Zombie's just better. That's just it. I think Josh Emmett is like pretty much on the level of Dan Ige. And I mean, these rankings. I was
going to say the same thing. They're so alike. They're so close. Again, it's another very close pick'em fight for me.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say about this fight. I would say just basically pick whoever's the underdog once again, or coin flip it. And you're not really going to be too wrong. My main argument is that Dan Ige's just been more active. That's it.
Dan Ige's more active. I do for the power advantage. I do have Josh Emmett. He's got a crazy right hand. Will he land it on Dan Ige clean? I don't know. Dan Ige
his right hand's explosive. His right hand's explosive. It like comes out of nowhere. He doesn't even charge it up. Like you don't even see it coming. It just kind of comes out of nowhere. Yeah,
I think with Josh Emmett also is the injuries he's had in his career. He's had so many layoffs with so many different health problems and injuries where if Dan Ige is the underdog here, I would bet that for sure.
Yeah. And I think he's already fought this year. Josh Emmett hasn't fought since June of 2020. So I mean, like, not that ring rest is real or anything, but there's something to be said about being active, just kind of like having your mind sharp.
For sure.
That might be just like the tiny argument that like puts you over the edge to bet on Dan Ige, but I really don't blame anybody to bet on Josh Emmett because he's a monster and like really anything can go in this fight. This whole card is just amazing because there's so many of those types of fights where like, oh, really anything could go. So good shit. All right.
Pretty much.
Main event, Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Julian Paiva. I mean, what is there to say really?
So I think everyone knows, this is kind of like one of those fights where the UFC wants O'Malley to win and give him a little number next to his name.
Yeah.
And, Fabio's here to ruin that dance. I know Pavia's training at with Uriah Faber at Team
It's
Alpha Male.
Paiva.
So
It's Paiva.
Paiva.
Paiva. Yeah. Okay, keep going.
And when you train on Team Alpha Male with Uriah Faber, what are they going to train for this fight with O'Malley? They're going to train wrestling, right? They're going to train the takedown. Where if O'Malley extends just a little bit, boom, take him down, go over that black line, and try to. He has a BJJ and black belt, right? So I think that's his hope, where you can take him down, hold him there for a bit, win some points. The thing is, when you do get hit with so many shots, you kind of go back to what you know best. And he's a little bit flat-footed. He hits hard, but the movement and the speed, it's tough. It's tough to see anything. It's tough to see this fight go any other way, really, than O'Malley for me.
Yeah, I agree. It's weird because like I've watched a couple of Paiva's fights over the last couple of days, and from what I know, he's been in BJJ like all of his life. Like you said, he's a black belt. Like he's well experienced there, but he doesn't use it. I think maybe there's something to like from what I hear other like MMA pros saying that there's a lot of fighters out there who, despite having like superior grappling, they don't want to use it because it's way more exhausting than striking. And obviously,
and what happens when you failed that takedown? That's a lot of energy.
It's a lot of energy gone. And then there's also just like the ego, finds it more satisfying to knock a person out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's his path to victory if he is going to win.
I agree.
Just stand there and strike. If Paiva does win, it's something to do with grappling, clinching, getting him on the ground, putting that wrestling on him.
And it is a good like, because Sean O'Malley likes to kick, right? And there's some easy openings for Paiva to like time some of those body kicks well to grab the leg and then just like fire the single, right? But Paiva, my question about this is Paiva's first fight under like big lights, big crowd. He's fighting a big name, right? There's all of these things that kind of come into play where is he going to have the patience and the focus to just go, okay, I need to go for the single or the double. I need to push this up against the fence.
And you might see him take him down in round 1 and win that round, but then what happens in round 2? What happens in round 3?
The adrenaline and the nerves from the crowd and the pay-per-view and all that stuff ends up kind of having an influence on him, and he decides that he wants to strike the striker. And then he gets caught because in his last fight versus Kyler Phillips, which I thought he lost, by the way.
Which is O'Malley's teammate.
Yeah. He almost got knocked out in the first round. Yeah, I thought he lost that fight.
He almost got finished in that first round.
And he took a lot of shots in that first round. A ton. From Kyler Phillips.
O'Malley's just going to be even a better version of that.
Yeah, I think so too. I honestly, I think a first round knockout by Sean O'Malley. I know that like that's such a cliche, but I think a first round knockout by Think O'Malley is like a likely outcome.
Sean O'Malley bet is good. I think a knockout has great odds. As I saw, it was like a plus 15 for him to win in there. And I think that's decent too. But
I think a first round knockout is even paying out.
It's extremely tough. So I could see this. I could see him just winning by points too.
Yeah, I got Sean O'Malley. In the first round, I put him in a couple of parlays as well. A Sean O'Malley knockout. The first round knockout, honestly, I'm really, really confident on. It's paying out 4-1, which I think is pretty decent. He's got a lot of first round knockouts, so I think it happens enough times to be paying out 4-1 reasonably.
I have him. I have him in a couple of parlays, and I have him with knockout too.
I have him in a parlay, a knockout. Stoppage. So Pokerstars does rounds 1 to 3 or whatever, right? So that's just an all-round stoppage, parlayed with Amanda Nunes stoppage, and it actually pays up pretty decently, like 3.4-1, I think. Nice. So that's pretty nice. Okay. So my picks are Sean O'Malley, first round knockout. What about you?
I got Sean O'Malley. I think it can go either way. I think he can knock him out any round, or he can go to distance. He can just beat him up for 15 minutes because, like I said, Paiva is a really, really tough dude. So Paiva, you can't go wrong either way.
Paiva is a tough guy. I don't think he's nearly as much of a zombie as that other guy was.
No, that guy was not even signed to the UFC. They just needed a replacement last minute. So
I know, but what I'm saying is like O'Malley made mincemeat out of that kid, and that kid still stays standing. If anybody else took that kind of damage, they would have been knocked out. So like if Paiva was put in that kid's shoes, Paiva would have been knocked out by the second round.
Yeah, but those amount of shots,
Yeah. So if Sean O'Malley looks even half as good as he did in his last fight, as far as striking output goes, I think Paiva gets put to sleep. But
and I think, like I said, I think this is the UFC is really pushing Sean. Once he beats this guy, okay, we'll give him a rank 15. We'll give him a rank 14 number. Paiva was ranked 15. He's not ranked 15 anymore. But when this fight was first announced, he was ranked 15 because he did beat Kyler Phillips. So
Paiva's tough. This is probably actually Sean O'Malley's toughest fight to date outside of Marlon Vera.
yes, outside of Marlon Vera for sure.
But at the same time, this is a really smart matchup by the UFC and a really smart matchup by Sean O'Malley. With Sean O'Malley doing that whole, like, I don't want to take high profile fights until I have a better contract. Like, this is a really smart fight to have in his current contract. It will definitely raise him up if he does well. And it's a ranked fighter. So that ends up like playing well with the UFC to give him those bigger fights and a better contract later on. So this is like, I think this is really, really intelligent matchmaking
definitely
by everybody. Okay. Yeah, for sure. In a really great way. All right, this is the one that Alex and I have been talking about all week. We're just like constantly flip-flopping on.
My favorite fight. My favorite. Yeah, I know the main event. Everyone's looking, but this is probably, besides the main event, this is my favorite fight of the night.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite fights of the night as well. Kai Kara France coming out of New Zealand. I'm a half Kiwi. My dad's from New Zealand. City kickboxing. So like I'm always rooting for the Kiwi boys to do well. So I have some bias in this conversation. Versus Cody Garbrandt, who, you know, for a long time was one of my favorite fighters with his amazing performance versus Dominic Cruz. Dude, that fight is one of my favorite fights of all time. Just
incredible.
The way he picked apart Dominic Cruz from every angle. It's like art watching him fight in that fight.
It was and the best performance to date on that title shot, and he showed up.
Yeah, absolutely. But we haven't seen him fight like that since.
No, unfortunately not. Unfortunately, Cody's had a lot of issues. He's had a lot of health problems that I think some people are unaware of. Back problems, kidney failure, COVID, blood clot, personal issues. He's been through a lot.
Hold on. Last year, he had pneumonia and COVID. Not just COVID. At the beginning
of the year, he had a kidney failure, too.
Yeah, fucking brutal. I mean, I had pneumonia when I was 15. It fucked me up for like 3 years. To like regain all my respiratory issues and all that stuff. I was messed up
when I was born, so it can
crazy.
Be tough. It can be tough. I mean, you get pneumonia and then you get COVID like that. It's just, and he was slated to fight at 125 versus Figueiredo for a very long time. The fight fell out, and then Figueiredo had an amazing fight with Moreno, and then he was kind of in the back shadow after that.
I heard him saying on UFC Embedded yesterday that he wishes he moved down to 125 a long time ago. So that's kind of interesting.
He made it sound like he didn't even want that 135 fight because he was already planning to go down to 125. Figueiredo had that amazing fight with Moreno, and then so they were going to rematch that no matter what.
Yeah.
And then the UFC was like, "Well, do you want to wait a year for someone else in 125, or do you want to just fight Rob Font?" And he was like, "Well, I'll just fight Rob Font." It kind of seemed like it was just almost a fight to fill in the time in a way where I think he should have already just been going down to 125. So.
It seems that way. It seems like he probably should have thought about going down a couple years ago. Maybe after his loss to Munoz, maybe he could have considered moving down. Yeah, and he's gone through some tough times. I watched his last fight yesterday versus Rob Font, and it was interesting because in the first round he looked fantastic. He looked really good. His striking was sharp. He was wrestling, which is something that we haven't really been seeing him do. Since basically Dominic Cruz, we haven't really seen him do any wrestling. And he was dominating on the ground. He abandoned all of that after the first round. I don't know if that was fatigue or he forgot the game plan, or maybe he wasn't focused. I know that, like, you know, there's rumors that he's separated from his wife. It kind of seems that's the case. And I think it happened around that time. So, you know, maybe he didn't have the best training camp ever. You know, he was only what, like 6 to 8 months off of recovering from COVID, which seems like enough time to recover, but it's not. You need a lot of time to recover from COVID. So, you know, maybe there was still some of that looming a little bit because he didn't look great after that. He took a lot of damage from Rob Font's jab. He made no attempts to try and get it to the ground again. He was just fighting off of his back foot constantly, trying to time some kind of like crazy right hook or something. And it never worked out.
He definitely is more of a, I'm not going to say he doesn't put out volume, but he loves to just have that one shot and just put you.
He does, but he needs to like get in their face to do it, right? He can't be doing it off of his back foot, which he was doing a ton of in versus Rob Font, and nothing came to fruition. So I'm curious what his mentality is going to be like coming into this fight, what his recovery is going to look like. Is he going to go back to his wrestling? Because we've seen versus Kai Kara France, that Kai France ends up kind of being put into survival mode when it goes to the ground. He's got good defensive grappling, but that's it. He's basically defending himself on the ground just so he can get it back on the feet. And he's
even
been
mixing in the takedown. You know, it's not going to be a grappling war. I think everybody expects it to be a striking fight, but even mixing that takedown, take him down, beat him up, get back up, or even faking the takedown just to make him think of it, I think is great. If it's just them striking there in very close range, I don't know how that's going to go. I don't. And Kai can hit very, very hard too.
Yeah, he's got power for the 125 division, which is very uncommon, right? There's not a lot of power in the 125 division. Not a lot of people are getting slept in that division. Kai France can put people to sleep. He put his last opponent to sleep, despite, once again, in his last fight, Kai France was getting out-grappled. He was dry. It was the first round. It looked like he was going to be submitted, and he just barely got out of it. And then what happened? He got on his feet and he knocked the dude out. He's got hammers. Sure. So if Cody can approach this calmly and smartly, take it to the ground, not that he can't outstrike Kai France, but it ends up being a much more even matchup if it stays striking. Take it to the ground, just wear him out, just grind him out, like you said, ground and pound. Cody Garbrandt can win this fight.
Even to give him the thought that I'm going to take you down is great. You can fake
threaten it. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
The threat of it.
Because Kai does not want to be on the ground. His grappling extends as far as survival. That's it. Survive enough to find an opening so that I can get back on my feet. That's it. I put money. I'm probably gonna put. I want to see what Cody looks like at the weigh-in first, because if he's looking like super gaunt and looking like he's on death's door, I'm definitely going to put money on Kai. Just because my main issue is like losing this extra 10 pounds. How much power is Cody going to have? And how is his chin going to be? We saw like with TJ Dillashaw when he moved down, he looked awful, right? Just looked like he was dying. Yeah. And we saw what happened. He took one punch to the chin and he was almost put straight to sleep. Slept. So, you know, that is a big issue. If Cody looks good, if he looks all right, I'm probably still going to put money on Kai, just because he's going to be the slight underdog. And I think this is another one of those fights where you kind of just pick whoever the underdog is.
I think it's definitely nice if you're going to go for an underdog. It's a very close fight to put Kai. I'm still leaning. I'm hopeful for Cody, but again, I don't. This is again a lot of these fights are very, very close.
Yeah, super close. Okay, so
it can go either way.
Okay, my pick is going to be Kai France. What kind of outcome do I think he's gonna? I might say Kai France by knockout.
I might say Cody by knockout personally.
Okay, all right. I
think if this fight goes the distance, I don't know. It's so difficult to see this fight even going the distance, to be honest.
Yeah, they both have power. They both have a history of knocking people out. You know, if Cody doesn't,
I think you're going to see both fighters even be knocked down. It could be very possible. Both fighters get knocked down. Cody's knockdown rate is one of the. If you look at some of the stats, Cody's knockdown rate is very, very high. He's got one of the highest knockdown rates.
Another interesting thing too about Kai France, and you know, he doesn't fight off his back foot. He's gonna bite down on his mouthpiece and get in your face, and that might be nice for Cody. That might be really nice for Cody, because that leaves Kai open a lot to take some damage.
That could be nice for Kai as well, because Cody does kind of bite down and come forward as well. So that's why I could see this fight going either way. It's a tough fight. It's a tough fight to pick.
So we're 50-50 on this. I'm going Kai. You're going
Kai, and I'll go for Cody for fun.
All right, we'll see how it goes. Okay. Now this one, I don't have a whole lot to say on it. But so yeah, I'll let you go first.
You know, with all the personal issues that Neal has been going through, and just the way he's been looking, and you know, Santiago has won 8 out of his 9 last fights. He's very, very underrated. I think again it's a close fight, but I do actually going to lean a little bit towards Santiago. I didn't really feel like that in the beginning, but with everything that's been going on with Neal, I don't know what's going to happen, if that's going to even play into the cage or not. And Santiago's on a roll. He did get knocked out by Li Jiang, and he did take a lot of time off. But if you look at his track record, he's been good. again, Neal's been fighting killers. Like, it's not you say he's losing to Wonder Boy. Everybody loses to Wonder Boy. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what's going on there. But
Mm-hmm.
for me, I just feel Santiago is a bit more on a roll. He's got more steam going ahead.
Yeah. I'm pretty much in the exact same boat as you. I think Santiago Ponzinibbio is actually like a fairly underrated fighter. He's very, very exciting to watch. Like, not many of his fights go to a decision. I'm just looking right now. So, I mean, knockout, decision. You know, he's down to he's ready for war. I mean, this guy is trying to put people out every single fight. He doesn't have a whole lot of quit in him. He doesn't, ease up on the gas pedal. He's a bit of a monster, and he's fighting a guy in Jeff Neal who's, his nickname is Hands of Steel, and that's for a reason. He's a knockout artist. My big thing, the reason why I don't have a whole lot to say here is, like, listen, even if Jeff Neal is saying it's not a big deal, he got arrested for drinking and driving 2 weeks ago. So right in the peak of his training camp.
That's just a big worrisome of just the whole picture. Like, was he doing that before, after? Where's his mind at? If you get it, it's different when it's off season, but when you're in the training camp and something like that happens, I get worried.
Shame.
And
He says it wasn't a big deal. He was hanging out with his girlfriend and had a few drinks and everything. And what I think about is, like, is Dustin Poirier having a couple of beers at the peak of his training camp with his wife? No. He's probably not drinking anything.
Tyson Fury has that before his fights.
Yeah, well, when you're a heavyweight, it's a little different. But
a couple pints before the fight.
Yeah. Jeff Neal doing that and then going for a drive. Probably his focus is not 100% there.
For sure.
As athletic as he is. And then there's just the whole drama of having to deal with the charges, which, obviously that's probably still kind of a in progress thing. He had to spend a little bit of time in jail. I think it was just like an overnight thing. But regardless, that puts a little stop to maybe the flow of things if things are going well.
Training camp the next morning. Hey guys, what's going on? Well, I was just drinking and driving the other night. Right?
So yeah. Ponzinibbio is only a slight favorite. I think he's like paying out 1.8 to 1 or something.
I think that's a good bet.
I think it's a good bet too. I think betting on him in the money line. I think betting on this fight not going the distance because, like, they're both knockout artists as well. I think is a really, really good bet. So that's what I got. I got Ponzinibbio by knockout, and I also betting on this fight not going the distance.
I just have Ponzinibbio straight up on the money line. I think that's a good safe bet for anybody who's going to take it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, this one is going to be a quick one. Amanda Nunes, we all know, is the GOAT. She's the only current 2 weight class champion. Say what you want.
I defended both belts as well.
Yeah, for sure. Say what you want about the featherweight division. Regardless, it's still an impressive feat that she's managed to dominate for as long as she has across 2 different weight classes. That's pretty amazing. So, got to give credit where credit's due. She's the women's GOAT, and she's amongst the GOATs. As far as I'm concerned, she's probably one of, you put her in the top 10 best fighters of all time. So, I think Pena really has nothing that Nunes hasn't seen before. Pena's a good fighter. She's got reasonable striking. Her wrestling is really, really good. She's got pretty solid pretty solid ground and pound. But Nunes is stronger. Nunes has got better grappling. She's got really good fight IQ on the ground. And her striking is just more powerful. She has
The only way Pena can win is something with wrestling, something with grappling, because I know she's been training that a lot. Her hands are just not on the same level as Amanda. Let's just be honest. Amanda's got hammers. It's not that Pena can't strike. It's just there's 2 levels. I don't see Pena knocking it out. I think the only way she can win is through a wrestling, grappling exchange and a submission, which if anyone was going to bet, that's great odds. Otherwise, I think the Lioness wins again.
Yeah. I'd be surprised if this goes into the championship rounds. If we look at Nunes's record, let me just I like using ShareDog because it's just like well laid out. But Nunes's finishes, the amount of finishes she's had early, like look at this. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1.
Yeah.
So if it goes past the first round, she goes to a decision. basically. It's unbelievable, actually, how many first round finishes she has. So I really would be surprised if this goes longer than 2 rounds. And if it does, that means Pena has something in her toolbox that she was able to use really, really well to make it go the distance. That doesn't mean that she wins by decision. I think probably Nunes still wins by decision. But
she might just take her to a decision win.
Yeah. But I think Nunes probably puts out Pena in the first or second round. If it goes to the ground, maybe it ends up being a little bit longer than that. But I think betting like under 2.5 rounds here is really, really good. I think putting money on a Nunes first round stoppage is also good. What do you think?
I think putting money on Nunes is good in any parlay, and I think putting Nunes to win rounds 1 and 5 is great.
Yeah.
Putting her to win by finishing I don't think you can go very wrong with this.
Yeah, I mean, put Nunes in every single parlay that you want. It's going to help. The money line's awful on her. I wouldn't bet the money line on her, but
yeah, the money line has changed significantly since it's opened. Right now, I think she's even at like minus 1,000 or something.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
At this point, if you caught her early on at minus 700 or something and put her in some stuff, that might be okay.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you could put her to finish.
Yeah, if she's at a minus 1,000, just put her in some parlays. But yeah, I'm putting money on her to win in the first or second round. I also put money on her to win by stoppage in that parlay with Sean O'Malley. And I'm not going to lie, you're going to like this. I put a little bit of money on Pena by submission.
I did. I think I did too. I think I put something. I don't know. I can't remember what I put, but I put a little bit on Pena because I did see. So there was some crazy odds for Pena by a submission or even by a decision. It was, if you put something a little bit there, you can't go wrong. But otherwise, I'm in the same boat as you. I have Nunes in parlays, and I have Nunes to finish the fight also in parlays.
Yeah,
it's basically the Nunes show, really.
Yeah, for sure. Pena, yeah, I bet on it last night. A Pena submission is paying out 19-1. You might get 20-1.
Yeah, it was something 19-1, 21. It's something pretty. Crazy.
I got 19-1. So like at the very least, I really only see Pena winning by submission. I don't see her winning by really anything else. I'd be amazed if she won by decision, but if she wins, it's going to be by submission where she just happens to find an opening and Amanda Nunes accidentally gives it up and makes a mistake. There's a lot of people saying like, she's been a champion for this long and now she's got a kid and a family and stuff. Like maybe she's too comfortable or whatever. I don't think she's that type of person where she's like going to lose focus.
She's had that kid in the last fight and then the last fight before that. So it's nothing good. I think if the motivation did dip, it would have been earlier.
Yeah.
She's had her child for quite some time now.
Agreed. Okay. Cool. Easy. Nice and quick. The main event, Charles Oliveira versus Dustin Poirier. I've been looking forward to this fight for a long time. Yes. What do you think?
I mean, again, this fight can go so many different ways, but I feel early on Charles is very dangerous. Rounds 1 to 3 specifically, maybe just even the first 2. I don't see Dustin winning this early. I think if Dustin wins, like everybody says, his coach, other MMA pros, if Dustin wins, he's going to take him to deep waters. He's going to take him to those championship rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Round 4, round 5. I think that's where Dustin's going to shine the most if he's going to win. He's got to be careful with all of Charles's tools because, like people say, there's a big red zone, right? There's a big zone where Charles is very dangerous. He's got so many different types of submissions. He's got the record for most submissions, and you've got to worry about his hands. You've got to worry about his distance. There's a lot to worry early on, which I think makes Charles a big threat, and I think makes this is why it makes it an interesting fight. It makes it such a close fight where I could see Charles winning the first few rounds, and I could see Dustin just taking over later on.
Yeah, I mean, you hear people say like, leading up to a fight, anything could happen. This is one of those fights where literally anything could happen.
There's so many scenarios where this fight can go.
So many scenarios. Dustin could knock out Charles. Charles could knock out Dustin. Charles, obviously, like you said, he's got dominant submission records. So, like, I think he's got the most submissions in UFC history, actually. So he could very easily submit Dustin. Dustin has very underrated grappling. Nobody wants to mention it, but he's got an unbelievable guillotine. Like, he could find a mistake in Charles's game, like in the moment, and get that guillotine and lock it in, especially if it's early and those guys are still dry. This could go to a decision, and where it could go either way depending on how focused Charles is. But, for me personally, I think the big deciding factor, considering how close this fight is the mentality. Charles Oliveira, as great as he's been on a huge winning streak. He's been killing it the last couple of years. He has shown moments in his career, even in fights where he's won, where his mentality has wavered a little bit. He's just had a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of give up and almost lost the fight. We kind of saw that happen to some degree in his last fight versus Chandler. He just made kind of a vital mistake, got clipped, almost got put to sleep. Luckily, obviously, he recovered. That was great. That's good mental game right there. But in the moment, in that first round, he almost lost it, and that was kind of his fault. It wasn't like a lucky punch. That was his fault, right? Mm-hmm. Dustin is consistent. He's always growing. Even in the fight that he lost versus Khabib, he was focused. He was in the moment. Never lost a step for a second. Khabib was just better. Khabib was just straight up better. And then when we see him go into those championship rounds, he did versus Gaethje, he did versus Max. There's another one I'm totally blanking on that went the distance.
The fight goes on, certainly. I don't think when you see the first round, second round, even versus Hooker, even versus Dan Hooker, where he was getting pieced up in the second round.
Hooker, that's what went to the distance. Hooker, right?
And he recovered very, very well. He's got great recovery. He's got he's got probably the best grit I've ever seen. And I think he shines in the later rounds.
Tell me what you think about this. I think he's the best fighter in the UFC in the championship rounds.
For sure.
So many people gas, and we see a lesser version of them, which is obviously that's fair.
He's got an amazing gas tank, that's for sure.
He finds a reserve. There's something deep down inside him that he pulls out of him in those remaining rounds that just make him an absolute monster. And I think if it goes past the second round, that's what we're going to see. We're just going to see Dustin turn it on and go hard, and like you said, put Charles Oliveira into deep water. It's poetic the way Dustin approaches the fourth and fifth round. It's unparalleled to, I think, anybody else in the UFC personally. So that's going to be the big question mark. Can Dustin survive Charles Oliveira's early storm, which we are going to witness? He's going to go for those takedowns. He's going to get on the inside, get in the pocket. And if he can, what is he going to do to punish Charles Oliveira in the championship rounds? Oof. Gives me the shivers just thinking about it.
Crazy fight.
Great fight. So I have Dustin. I put money on the money line. It was 1.7 to 1 a few weeks ago, so I got an early advantage on that. And then I just put a little bit of money on him to win in the fourth and the fifth round. They were paying out 10 to 1 and 15 to 1. What do you got?
I've got Charles. I bet on Charles early on. And I don't remember what the odds were. Could have been plus 120. And I think they even increased. As of recently.
Yeah.
I think again, a very close fight. I'm still leaning towards Charles. I think the grappling even throughout the match is going to be a big problem. I don't think Dustin ever wants this to be on the ground. And if he finds himself on the ground and even recovers from that, and they're still fighting, there's a lot of points and there's a lot of time being spent on the ground, even if he gets. I think Charles's striking is so underrated right now. We've seen, if you look at Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler go at it for 3 rounds, right? Just a barn burner, and then Justin Gaethje just catching Michael and finishing him like that. I think his striking is growing and growing. Personally, I think we haven't even seen the depths of what it could go.
Yeah.
I think if you see this go to round 4, it'll probably start being towards Dustin. I think if it goes to those later rounds, but I think before that, I think it's going to be Charles, and I think Charles can get it done in the first 3 rounds. If Charles doesn't get it done in the first 3 rounds, I think it's going to lean towards Dustin. We haven't seen Charles in the championship rounds, so that's my only concern.
Mm-hmm.
In all of his lightweight fights, he has never been to the championship rounds.
Yeah.
That's not to say he can't fight in the championship rounds. He doesn't have the cardio. I still believe he does. We just haven't seen him because he's just been finishing on this incredible streak.
Yeah.
It'd be poetic to see Dustin win, but I'm gonna still lean with Charles on this fight.
Okay. All right. So you got Charles. I got Dustin. I think we're gonna see a late finish from Dustin. That's where my money's on. But it's a close fight.
See a round 4 and round 5 finish, but for Dustin too.
Yeah. I don't think this fight goes the distance personally. No. Honestly, I wouldn't even be mad if it did go the distance though, because you know what? It's a guaranteed gonna be a barn burner. There's no way this is gonna be a boring fight. Nothing about these two their styles suggests that it'll be a boring fight. It'll be exciting whether it ends early or goes the whole way.
Yeah,
but
the skill sets they both possess is so unique, right? Dustin's footwork is amazing with the boxing.
Yep.
And Charles, he might not have the best footwork, but he's got great hands and he's got incredible grappling. So there's so many different scenarios where this fight can take place. And that's
Isn't that funny?
Fascinating fight.
Isn't that funny? Where like Charles Oliveira has obviously dominant grappling, but like underrated striking. Dustin Poirier has proven to have amazing striking, but in my opinion, really underrated grappling. So like, it just makes for a really, really interesting matchup.
It's funny, both of them are underrated in one aspect where they're very great. And you saw Charles finish Michael Chandler, and you saw Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler fight, right? So that should tell you something where Charles doesn't possess the power as Gaethje has. He definitely does it, but the technique is there because that was precision. The way he fought, that was precision. That wasn't power.
100%.
That's what does concern me a little bit. So we'll see how this fight plays out.
Cool. Awesome, guys. Well, that was a lot of fun. Once again, if you guys really enjoyed the video, let me know. Throw a comment down below. Throw a like down there. Make sure you subscribe. I do fight companions on my Twitch stream for pretty much every fight card. Twitch.tv/DramaticDegen. I'll leave a link down below as well as links for all my social media. I mean, do you want me to shout out your social media, Alex? If you want people to follow you on,
you can put it down there or shout it out.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, okay. I'll put a link down below for Alex's Instagram. He uses Instagram a lot. Your Twitter as well. Do you want me to throw a link down there?
Sure. You can put those down there, and you guys can check me out if you want.
Awesome. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that. I know it's a little bit different from all the poker related content that I do, but it's something a little bit fun and also related in that we like to gamble. I'm not gonna lie, chat. I've put like $2,000 on all the fights tomorrow. So hopefully I make a few bucks back. We'll see. Good luck, guys. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.